Hello folks, Min-Max Munchkin back with an old school, old style video, without a script, without anything, just me talking off the top of my head about the Candlekeeper character that I recently made brief explanation, kind of like a quick overview video about. In this one, in this third and final installment, I'm kind of gonna go into a bit more details about a lot of these things that are present on the character sheet of this character, and yeah, probably, I don't know, like, if you like these kinds of videos, you know, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button. If not, well, there's always the short videos around and everything, but yeah, some people like these long form videos, so I keep them. Anyway, I already talked about the most important things and kind of like defining characteristics of this character in the quick overview, general overview of the character, so I'm kind of gonna go into the nooks and crannies of this build, and yeah, hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. So if you are willing to stick around, strap in, grab some popcorn or whatever you wanna eat, and yeah, let's begin. So basically, the Mark of the Sentinel Human, the reason I picked it is, as some of you already know, is because of the spells of the Mark, the counter spell, which, by the way, it's the main reason to take this character, because, you know, you want to stop spells, you want to counter spells, right? And clerics don't have this spell on their list. Well, with Twilight Cleric, you get it added to the list of spells. Big Beast Hand is also good, actually very, very good. It is gonna happen a bit later in the character progression. You need to be a level 9 Cleric to be able to prepare it, but still, like, you will get there. And if I got there, and I did, I played this character at level 9, that's where I stopped. You will get there too, at least some of you, right? Abilities, language-wise, I would say that, you know, I usually go for Goblin, Giant, Orcish, maybe, well, not maybe, but definitely Dwarvish. Languages that are kind of like have the best odds of being used during the course of the campaign. Now, obviously, every campaign is different. I'm just speaking in generalities here. These kinds of languages often get used because you're often in contact with dwarves, giants, goblins, and those kinds of creatures. But if you're campaigning through some weird elemental plane of water and everybody is speaking Aquan, if you can get Aquan, even though you cannot from here, I mean, get it, right? I mean, it's just what it is. Yeah, ability score improvements, I would say I would keep them as is. You can customize them from the, you know, customizations from the Tasha's book, but personally I wouldn't. I like my feats, and I don't necessarily go for highest wisdom scores or whatever, but more on that later. Now, Sentinel's intuition, I kind of found myself relying on this sorry, quite a bit, because both of these skills get used pretty often. Wisdom perception in particular, and wisdom insight very often as well. Adding a d4 on top of all of those, you know, it's not gonna be super powerful, but it's gonna help, you know, push those checks to higher numbers, obviously. Guardian's Shield, I relied on this in almost every combat, if I can recall. It's not super powerful, it's only once per day, but yeah, for a round or two you get to cast shield. Well, not for two, but for one round. And yeah, it's just good. Like, it's not super powerful, it's not underpowered, it's just good. I think it's like an extra casting of a spell that you don't have to spend your spell slot on, right? Vigilant Guardian, however, I never managed to use this effectively. I'm not saying you won't be able to do so, but for me this was like a low impact trait. On paper, sure, it could mean something, you know, like taking a hit instead of an ally, but I found myself never be able to use this, for this particular character at least, effectively. Spells of the Mark, obviously, Counterspell and Big Beast Hand. All of these other ones are pretty much just like, all of these are, I think, cleric spells, other than protection from energy. I can't really even tell. But yeah, I wouldn't really, since like most of these are on cleric list, they're kind of like they're redundant. But yeah, mainly counterspell and big beast hand, those two are gonna be big for this character. Very, very big. Now, in terms of ability score improvements, ability score point buy, sorry, I prefer this one. I prefer to have as many feats as possible. I like feats over maximized ability scores, because feats usually give you things that just ability score improvements don't, right? Yeah, you can go for this too as well if you want to maximize your wisdom score at level 16 instead of 19. But me personally, I would like to have all of the feats that I want to have for wisdom. And, +1 wisdom at level 12, +1 wisdom at level 16, and then +2 wisdom from the ordinary ability score improvement at level 19. Whatever you choose, it's not really gonna matter too much. I'm just saying what I would do personally. So that's pretty much the way I spread the point buy as well. Background, not really gonna matter too much. Other than taking whatever background that gives you perception, because perception is not a skill that's present on the cleric list of skills that you get proficiencies with. And yeah, I think for this character, Far Traveler works just fine. Pick whatever you want here. I picked the playing card set, but it's a low impact choice. Again, in terms of languages, I pick ones that I know that have the highest odds of being used. You can pick Giant, I don't know, whatever, right? I picked Orc just because. These language choices, they are usually like role-playing and flavor and theme choices anyway, so there's really not much mechanical differences that's gonna be, other than, well, if you're speaking to Orcs in their Orc language, you might be able to gain a bit more favors and, maybe prevent fights occasionally, even though the Orcs are probably gonna attack you anyway. Yeah, so one other thing that you could do is pick Sailor, because I don't know if it's gonna ruin the build, but I'm gonna fix it up later. So Sailor has perception as well. You can take here, like, I would... why is it not letting me... Oh, yeah, I see. Well, it's because I already picked athletics. Never mind, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it gives you athletics by default. It's not present here because I already picked athletics from the skill expert feat. But yeah, anyway, you can do that because it gives you also perception. And athletic skill is also pretty important. It gets used very often for grappling and, like climbing very, very hard surfaces and stuff like that. Personally, I think a +2 or +3 from your base strength score is enough, which is the reason why I would go for Far Traveler, right? And yeah, that's pretty much the way we are gonna run this. Now, feat-wise, I would... let's kind of like go over these level by level instead of just going over the feats. So, additional cleric spells, obviously, this is from Tasha. A lot of these spells, Aura of Vitality, Aura of Life, Aura of Purity, these are paladin spells, and so I talked about it in my big Tasha live streams that are like for 11 hours or something crazy like that. But basically all of these paladin spells that have now been given to clerics, they've been objectively powered up by the fact that they've been given to clerics, because I think part of the design behind these spells is been part of the design behind them in terms of like spell slot levels and all of that, is that paladins get them late, right? So a level 4 paladin spell, paladin needs to be level 13 to be able to prepare a level 4 spell. Well, a cleric with an Aura of Life needs to be only a level 7. So, or yeah, level 7. Even like level 5 for Aura of Vitality. So I think that these spells are more powerful in clerics because they will be used at lower levels, at lower character levels. Will it break the game? Probably not, but it's just a thing, right? So that's what you get. So hit points, this is pretty standard. Proficiency is pretty standard. Spellcasting, I mean, standard cleric stuff. Not really much difference there. Divine Domain, again, Twilight Cleric. So pick that, obviously. Domain spells, let's kind of quickly go over here. So in terms of like these domain spells, Fairy Fire pretty good. You're gonna be using it fairly often. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty solid support spell at low levels, even at high levels. The directly competing one with it is Bless. It's just a generic ordinary cleric level, so you will be kind of like having to pick and choose which one to use. I kind of used Fairy Fire more often than Bless, to be honest. Bless is more consistent, but I found Fairy Fire occasionally more useful because of the party compositions and things like that. So those variables are gonna, well, vary, but yeah, they're gonna matter. So Sleep, I like this. So for those of you who know me, know that I don't like this spell because of the fact that it's such like low. It only works on like the first 2, maybe 3 levels. And if you have a character that uses this spell a lot on low levels and then stops using it because it just mechanically becomes sucky at level 4 and above, I don't like that, because I like to use my spells, you know, thematically. If I'm a character that puts other creatures to sleep, so that's telling a little bit of a story about that character. Maybe that character prefers to use, you know, non-lethal means, or does something else, you know, like there's a story behind using a spell, and well, this spell can only be used on first 2 or 3 levels. So that's really the reason I don't like. Yes, it works perfectly at level 1, level 2, all of that, but as hit points of the enemies become start inflating a lot, these 5d8s and 7d8s or whatever, that's not gonna be nearly enough to affect the flow of combat, because at level 5 it's very common to have an enemy with like 40-50 hit points. The sleep spell is not gonna do anything to that. So yeah, it's just, it's more like I don't like it from the role-playing aspect more than the mechanical aspect. Sure, it works fine at level 1 and 2, 3 maybe. That's pretty much where we are gonna be ending this. So second, we get the Sea Invisibility, which is never gonna get used, and Moonbeam, which is fine, but it's not really, it's just okay, right? There's nothing too much about it. Third level, we get the Aura Vitality, pretty good. You might need it occasionally, just in case you don't manage to give everybody enough hit points. This is gonna be that extra buffer of healing, which again, this is a paladin spell. And now the cleric has it. Now this particular cleric has it, right? So, sorry, my nose is a bit congested. Give me a second. Yeah, that probably sounded horrible on your end, but I had to do it because, you know, it interferes with my speaking patterns. Yeah, pretty good. Like, it's not super powerful, but I mean, at level 5, you know, turning this on for 2d6 hit points healing for a full minute, so that's like up to 20d6 healing, which is probably gonna happen anyway. This is pretty good on a cleric, because you need to be such a low level of character, a level 5 character, to use this. These 2d6 hit points at level 5 are gonna matter much more than they would ordinarily matter on a paladin who is a level 9, because a paladin of level 8 or below cannot prepare this spell. You know, you need to be a level 9 to have 3rd level paladin spells. So it's just by the fact of being usable on lower levels that it's gonna be better on this character than any other level 9 character, you know, that gets to use it. Leomund's Tiny Hut, pretty good. Maybe let's actually kind of make it even bold in this text, yeah. So here's the thing, right? So you get this spell for free. You just like by the time you hit level 5 of cleric, you just have this spell. It's automatically prepared. It's prepared for free. So why would wizards prepare these spells why would they even learn them, and why would bards also learn them? So like it wastes a slot that it wastes a spell that they learn, and for wizards it also wastes one of the spells that they prepare. So yeah, wizards prepare spells and they can prepare whatever they want, but why would they prepare Leomund's Tiny Hut when you get it for free? So basically it makes wizards and bards feel kind of like less useful, you know, because this spell is usually used by you know, cast by wizards and bards, and that's like one of the reasons to go with these two classes. It's a big reason because this spell is really good in like wilderness, you know, protecting during the long rest and stuff like that. It can even be used offensively if the DM is gonna let you use the shenanigans, right? But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it about the spell. Level 4 spells, well, I mean, look, so where are we? Aura of Life. So Aura of Life, so this is a spell that's very situational. I was never able to use this spell effectively. I don't even think I ever cast it, because sure, necrotic damage might happen. It never happened for me, so for you it might be different. But this thing here, let me just tell you, this character, there's like I don't see this kind of like situation ever happening with this particular character. I'm gonna talk about it a bit more later. You will know, and you already know if you watched my shorter video about this topic. So yeah, I mean, you get it for free, that's fine, but you're probably never gonna use it. The other spell that you get is Greater Invisibility. So it's a good spell. Unfortunately, it's a concentration, and you have plenty of concentration spells already, just by the fact of you being a cleric, and clerics get a lot of good concentration spells. You are probably never gonna be casting this spell either. However, if there's like a particularly juicy paladin, sorkadin, maybe a rogue, maybe a fighter or something, casting this spell on them is a good buff. It's just that there's probably better things to concentrate on again. A level 5 spell, Circle of Power. Now this is, you know, this spell feels like cheating because you get it at level 9. So you need to be a cleric of level 9 to be able to cast it, while paladins who have this spell on there, it's a basic paladin spell. Paladins need to be level 17. So this is again another, I'm gonna repeat, a lot of these paladin spells are I think designed around the fact that the paladins get them late. The paladins need to be high level in order to get them. Well, with cleric you're basically almost, you know, you need half the levels, because double of 9 is 18. There's not really much difference between 17, right? It's like half the level to be able to cast this very powerful spell, which is basically like it's protection from evil and good, and what's the other? Yeah, it's like trust me, this spell is very powerful because it affects so many things. And you get it at such a low level. Sure, it's like it's no guarantee, but whenever you're dealing with like a bunch of saving throws against magical effects, this is gonna probably save a lot of people's asses, including yours, right? And that's why I like these kinds of spells, because they're so good, right? So yeah, that's it about that. Now bonus proficiencies, heavy armor, pretty good. Weapons, martial weapons, you're not gonna be using them because of the fact that you're gonna be casting all of these, like domain spells and a bunch of other just ordinary very good cleric spells. Usually clerics with martial weapons, attacking things with your weapons is not good anyway. Most clerics, it's kind of like a suboptimal thing to do in my own opinion, even though you can do it. There are some clerics like war clerics that are a bit better at it, but usually it's just a waste of an action. A waste of a turn to just attack with your weapons. You get them, it's fine. I don't think you're gonna be ever using them other than maybe occasionally to hit things, you know, with attack of opportunity. So that's it. Now, Eyes of the Night. This is the first of the Bonkers Twilight Cleric features because it gives you 300 feet of dark vision. Now, this is pretty insane. There's no other creature in D&D at low, high level, low, high challenge rating that has this much Dark Vision. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments down below. And yeah, like even extending this to your allies just for an hour, it's even more ridiculous. And you can even waste spell slots on it. I wouldn't, but it's not the worst thing to do, because your spell slots are gonna be a bit more plentiful resource for you, because clerics usually waste slots, or at least a couple of slots, on healing words and cure wounds. But this particular cleric, you're probably not gonna be doing that very often, or at least not as often as other clerics would do in situations which you will be finding yourselves at. So expending a spell slot on this is not the worst thing to do. It's probably that you're probably not gonna need it in the first place, and then if you do need it, you know, there's pros and cons to it. But yeah, this is pretty nuts, particularly when you pair it with the perception skill proficiency and then expertise that you get from the skill expert feat, which I'm gonna talk about real soon. So yeah, like combining these two things together, you know, for the 32 passive perception at level 17 and above, it's still gonna be high even at lower levels. With 300 feet of dark vision, this is just insane. Like, this character is it's super overpowered in multiple ways, right? It's just an ordinary single class character, cleric, you know. So yeah, pretty good. My throat is a bit busted, I don't know why. It's probably because I just woke up, so apologies for sounding like I'm coarse or whatever. So yeah, Eyes of the Night, that's it. A Vigilant Blessing. Now this feature is really good as well. It's not super important, but it does synergize with your Twilight Sanctuary, which is the main thing that this character does, because of the fact that you get advantage on initiative. And by the fact that you have advantage on initiative, yes, you can give it to other people, but honestly, I would be selfish with this, because turning on this channel divinity is as soon as possible inside of the combat encounter is the best thing that you can do at low levels and high levels, because these temporary hit points, they just stack. Okay, they don't stack, but temporary hit points don't stack. That's the rule of the 5th edition. What I meant to say is that the more rounds the characters that get affected by this means that they're gonna be getting more temporary hit points, and whenever they take damage, some of that damage or even all of that damage is gonna get negated, deleted, you know, minimized with this channel divinity for free. Basically, you need your action and you just need to use your channel divinity, which is a plentiful resource for clerics and even paladins, right? Give me a second, my nose is... God damn. Alright, well, this is going swell, I guess. So yeah, basically that's it for the Twilight Sanctuary channel, for the Vigilant Blessing. Harness Divine Power, I don't see you ever using this. Even the Turn Undead is only like you're gonna be using it when maybe there's some undead around you. Comparing one extra spell slot per short rest with a lot of temporary hit points and just automatically ending charmed and frightened conditions, there's really no competition comparison between these two channel divinity options. This one is clearly so much superior and better in every way that there's just no... I don't see why you would ever use this, right? Now, I'm not gonna talk too much about the Twilight Sanctuary, but it is important to mention again just the fact that all these temporary hit points, however small they may look like, in every combat encounter they're gonna reduce the damage of every single monster by some percentage. It might even be a lot, because like if the monster has extra multi-attack, usually maybe one of those miss, and then the one that hits doesn't really even deal that much damage, right? So you're gonna be negating a lot or even all of that damage. I regularly found myself, just by the Unearthed Arcana version of this class, which didn't even scale with the cleric level. It was just 1d8 flat, at level 2, at level 9, at level 20. I found myself completely cancelling out the damage for a round on some characters at lower levels, admittedly. But yeah, with this, even at level 20, like 23.5 on average, temporary hit points given to each and every party member who takes damage, right, obviously. And even those that don't, they take that temporary hit points in the first round, or whenever you manage to turn this Twilight Sanctuary on at the end of their turn. Well, that sounded, my voice completely gave up for a second. Press like if you found it funny. It will negate so much AoE damage, it will negate so much damage, period, that everybody's effective hit points will basically be, well, maybe not 20 to 100% higher, but let's say, you know, a quarter to maybe a full higher, because there are certain instances where even just like 20-25 temporary hit points at level 20 might be enough to completely negate a damage for a round or two, right? Because, you know, it depends on the circumstances and the kinds of damages that you're taking, AoE, attacks, whatever, like there's a lot of variables in there. Yeah, I mean, I recently played the level 6 Artillerist Artificer. It's got this Protector Eldritch Cannon, which gives 1d8 plus intelligence modifier temporary hit points to everyone within 10 feet. And it basically directly helped the Cleric remain at 11 temporary hit points, and that's the exact amount, 11 hit points, and that's the exact amount of temporary hit points that I gave that player, and then another player also remained above 0 hit points, thanks to the fact that I gave it 11 temporary hit points. So temporary hit points, I had the chance to do something similar with the Artillerist Artificer recently, very recently, and I played this character last year quite a bit, yeah. So and it was even weaker than it is now, because again it was just 1d8. It's I said it's broken. If you don't think it's broken, that's fine. We don't agree on the level of power, but you cannot say that this is not overpowered. This is probably the most powerful support cleric subclass in the game so far, and I know some people think that peace clerics are more powerful than Twilight clerics. Again, we will disagree on it, and I might even make a video explaining my reasoning, specifically comparing those two classes, because there seems to be a lot of discussion in the community about it. But yeah, more about it later and on some other occasion, maybe. So yeah, cantrip versatility, you're never probably gonna even need this, so I didn't even cover it in here. Well, actually I did, sorry. So I completely forgot about even talking about this. You only have a few good cantrips anyway, so why would you ever need this, right? It's for you there just in case you don't like one of your cantrip choices, but I don't see you ever needing this. At level 4, I personally took Warcaster feat. I think it's not the best thing to do. I think Resilient Constitution is more like, it's more consistent, because yes, Warcaster helps you also with Constitution saving throws. You pretty much don't need this part, because again, you're not using weapons, you're casting spells most of the time. And this was useful like once during the entire character's career. I cast a cantrip on the enemy who was trying to flee away. But other than that, I think Resilient Constitution will serve a similar purpose, because it will give proficiency to Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration, and it will increase your Constitution by 1 because of the fact that your Constitution is an odd number, 17 or 15, right? So it will give you basically plus 3 at level 4, and then plus 4 at level 5 once your proficiency bonus increases to plus 3, right? So I think Resilient Constitution at level 4 is a better choice, even though I did it in reverse at level 4 and 8. So yeah, I mean, you can do either. I think it's better to take Resilient Constitution, right? And yeah, these two feats go together. Once you take this one for spells, you kind of have to take the another one. Okay, you don't have to. You will manage just fine even without Warcaster, I think. But why would you when your spells are like every cleric has good spells, and I think putting these kinds of like putting the combo of these two feats on any cleric out there, there's really like not much bad about it, other than, yeah, sure, your wisdom score remains at 16 or 18, but I'm not personally somebody who thinks that maximizing your spell saving throw DCs is necessarily, you know, like the best thing to do. It's good, I just think that these feats are a bit better, you know, especially if you're casting spells like Bless and things like that, where, you know, you do all of that, you know, you cast spells with concentration that necessarily don't even profit from your wisdom score, so why would you up your wisdom, right? While we are on the topic of the feats, let's kind of like quickly go over the level 12, which is Skill Expert. Now, I think it's a new feat from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and I never got the chance to use it. I didn't use it. I was never a level 12 Twilight Cleric, but I think this is a good feat for this character. First and foremost, you gain proficiency, you gain proficiency in one more extra skill. I picked athletics. You can choose whatever you want. Survival, maybe animal handling, maybe even, I don't know, persuasion or something. I personally think athletics is just fine for this character. Now, the thing that's more important, I think, is perception skill expertise. Again, it goes back to the point of you having dark vision of 300 feet, so naturally having a higher perception skill bonus and passive perception is better. Like, it's just a better thing to have when you combine these two things together, right? So that's why I think this feat will do good. Now, you could do something like this in the past by multiclassing into a rogue to gain those expertises, but now you have this feat, which is kind of like good because it combines several things in one, right? You can increase your ability, your wisdom by 1. You gain proficiency in one skill. This is like the lowest importance of the 3, but this one is probably the most important. You know, the expertise in perception, it's always good for this character. It's probably the best thing to have, even at level 12, right? And then finally level 16, the feat that you don't really need, but I recommend. You put your wisdom to 18. Remember, at level 12, your wisdom is now, because of the fact that you increased your wisdom, it's 17, now it's 18, so now you finally have a +1. Your wisdom is 18, and you have just basically +5 to perception and investigation passive scores. These are like, this is maybe situationally useful, but probably not gonna be that useful. This is the main thing, right? I like to see these passive wisdoms and things like that as high as possible on these kinds of characters. Specifically, you know, dark vision 300 feet in the middle of the dark, your passive wisdom being like 25, 27, 28, 29, 32, obviously at level 17 and above. That's just, you know, it's why we do these characters, right? Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah, your Twilight Sanctuary, it's a thing that you're most interested in, but that doesn't prevent you from, you know, min-maxing all of these other things and just like making your powers in several areas as big as possible. So, you know, that's just the reason why I would take this feat. So yeah, basically that's it about the feats. Other things to take note of is obviously all the other cleric features. So, you know, you get your Destroy Undead. If you're dealing with a bunch of undead, this might be occasionally good. Steps of the Night, I didn't find myself needing this a lot. But, you know, occasionally being able to fly obviously can be good. Blessed Strikes now. You are not really so, okay. So Divine Strike. Let's do it this way, right? So yes, sure, Divine Strike at level 14 gets another power bump. But it's only tied to your weapon attacks, and as we already said, weapon attacks is not really something that this character is aimed at. You're better off casting spells. Like, you're not gonna be spending your turns and actions, you know, swinging with your weapon. So that's why I think that Blessed Strikes, it can still up your weapon attacks. It just doesn't increase in power at level 14. It's like it's a power that you get at level 8 and that's it. But you will be occasionally casting cantrips, right? If you cast all of your support spells, activate your Twilight Sanctuary and all of that, yeah, I mean, occasionally you will be casting cantrips, especially with Warcaster feat, when an enemy tries to, you know, run away, provoking opportunity attacks. Casting a cantrip on that enemy is probably better than using your weapon. So yeah, I would personally go for Blessed Strikes. You can just leave Divine Strike in there, but I personally think that this is better. Divine Intervention, obviously level 10 clerics always get this. It's a good feature, it's up to luck, but it's always memorable. It puts the DM on the toes. Something fun happens, something interesting happens. Puts puts some pressure on the player, you know, because you can only use it once every 7 days. So, you know, is some situation that you're in important, critical, dangerous enough for you to use this? You know, it's an interesting feature. It facilitates more kind of like it increases the dynamic and atmosphere and tension at the table, and that's always a fun thing to have, right? So yeah, all of that we already covered. Twilight Shroud, now I don't think +2 AC effectively at level 17 is gonna be anything to take home about. It probably won't matter in a lot of cases, because at level 17 you're gonna be fighting monsters that have +15, +19 to hit, so you're gonna be getting hit a lot one way or another, but it's something, right? So it's better than nothing. This class is so front-loaded with all of these like channel divinities and 300 feet dark visions and all of that, that I don't think you need more big powers at low levels, especially because your Twilight Sanctuary will be relevant even at level as high as level 17 and even level 20, as we talked about it before. Obviously, your level 20 capstone power is your Divine Intervention improvement, which becomes an automatic success instead of just needing a dice roll, a percentage check. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? You get an automatic success on Divine Intervention, and that pretty much guarantees that whatever Divine Intervention you're asking for, it's not up to luck for it to happen, it just happens, right? So that's it about the features. Items wise, anything that increases your armor class and saving throws, I think that's the best thing to have, because you want your Twilight Sanctuary, which is the primary thing in almost every combat encounter for you to do. That's the first thing that you activate in your first round of combat. That's what I was always doing, and that was almost always the best thing I could have done. The situations where it wasn't the best thing I could have done was, well, the situations where I would get like incapacitated or maybe dropped to 0 hit points because the DMs would just focus all the hundreds of hit points of damage on me. And, you know, well, then it's kind of like irrelevant, but even then it kind of serves the purpose, because the damage that you take is not the damage that somebody else would be taking. Don't forget, you do get heavy armor proficiency, so your armor class is better than clerics that don't get this heavy armor proficiency. Now, a lot of clerics do get heavy armor proficiency. I think like half of the subclasses do get it, but not all of them, right? So, like, every little bit of it matters. Increasing your AC even higher, increasing your saving throws even higher, all of that is important. A couple of thematic spells is like Candle of Invocation and Weapon of Warning. They're not really gonna increase your power that much, but I would personally, if you can pick and choose which items to take, I would kind of like go for something like this, to be honest. And that's it about the items. Obviously, whatever item other than these that you get is always going to increase your power some way. But these would go well in synergy in relation to your main subclass and spellcasting powers. In terms of spellcasting, like in a little bit more detail, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. Guidance, obviously. Thaumaturgy, it's like a staple, almost a must-take cleric spell. It's like a signature cleric cantrip. Sacred Flame, Toll the Dead. I like Sacred Flame a bit better because it ignores cover, but Toll the Dead obviously deals more damage because it has a higher damage die. Whatever you choose, it's not really gonna matter too much because you're not a damage dealer anyway. I personally think Sacred Flame is better. And it's even a bit more thematic because you're a Candlekeeper. That's the thing that you do, right? That's the theme and flavor you're going for. So Sacred Flame, you know, Sacred Candle Flame, you get the point. Like, there's a little bit more theme with this cantrip other than Toll the Dead, right? Mending, sometimes breaking things is what you fixing things that are broken, you know, is necessary to facilitate that community and taking care of the people, which is what you do with this character. You know, all the theme between the Twilight Cleric and Sentinel Human, like both the race and the class are like protectors, carers. They care about people, they protect, they serve, they support. Light, well, I mean, you're a Twilight Cleric, right? So there's really not much to it other than that. I mean, not every choice has to be super deep and whatever, right? So already talked about these spells. Bless, it's just a spell that you take. It's the best level 1 support spell. It will compete with Fairy Fire, but it's better to have both of them and have to choose which one is better. And even if you chose the one that's not as good in that particular situation, you're probably not gonna be, you know, regretting your choice, right? Because, okay, sure, Fairy Fire is not guaranteed. This Bless is more consistent. So if you're going for consistency, this is always gonna work to some extent. Fairy Fire might just fail because the targets of the spell succeed on their saving throws, so then the casting of the spell goes in waste. So yeah, there's pros and cons, but sometimes it pays to risk a bit more to give advantage on attacks instead of just plus 1d4, right? Healing Word, just in case somebody does get dropped to 0 hit points. Might happen at low levels where damage rolls are quite swingy and hit points are quite prone to be vulnerable to swingy damage rolls. Could be relevant even at higher levels. I found myself using this spell like 3 times from level 3 to level 9 with this character, so you're probably not gonna need it that much, same as me. Guiding Bolt, I removed it from here because it's only a low level spell. Once you get higher level spells, you are probably never gonna be using this spell anyway, so it's kind of dead. You're better off preparing something else, right? So at level 2, you can obviously have all these other ones, but in this particular case, I kind of chose this kind of like spread, right? Yeah, these are, as I always say with spells, consider these more of like a rough set of guidelines. Other than like, you need these spells. Like, somebody else in the party probably has Detect Magic. If you're the only one, well, maybe you need to sacrifice, let's say, maybe sacrifice Healing Word for Detect Magic. Because somebody has hell. You know, like, you coordinate with your party members to be able to do this. Protection from Evil and Good is good, but it's only a low level spell. So, later on you will have better spells to prepare other than this one. So yeah, anyway, level 2, not gonna talk about these 2 spells, already covered them. Aid is something that every cleric prepares for you, particularly more hit points for your party members and you is always good, because of the fact that you can stack these on top or below, whatever you want to consider, your temporary hit points that you give with your Twilight Sanctuary. Now, I, for some reason, put locate object here. I don't know why. It's probably an error. Let's put back lesser restoration, right? I think I just probably misclicked while I was doing this. Don't get me wrong. Locate object might be super good in mystery clue gathering campaigns. And I often actually find myself not even needing lesser restoration way too often, but you know, maybe you don't need it often, but come on, when some of your party mates get paralyzed or poisoned, or even blinded for that matter, this spell is gonna be clutch. It's gonna be clutch, trust me. And you're not even gonna regret the fact that you're not using this spell that often in other situations. Obviously, spiritual weapon, it's a thing that clerics use at level 3 and above. Yes, maybe you can kind of ditch this spell in favor of some other spell at higher levels. I like to have it even at higher levels personally. So, you know, to each their own. I think bonus action damage is usually something that you can do with at least a level 2 spell slot, which is plentiful resource later on. For you. So yeah, that's that. I already talked about these two again, so let's kind of like talk about counterspell a bit more and dispel magic. Counterspell is from your racial choice, your sentinel human. No other cleric other than this cleric, or maybe some cleric who is also a sentinel human has this. So I think this will make you more powerful than any other Twilight cleric out there who is not a sentinel human Twilight Cleric, right? Dispel magic, why just have counterspell when you can have both? So this is preventing spells from being cast, and this is preventing spells that have already been cast. So this fixes both circumstances, and I think you should have both. I always had both of these prepared. Now obviously, Spirit Guardians is the most powerful combat damage control spell for 5th level clerics and above. Well, not above, but 5th and 6th level definitely, right? There are better spells, but they're higher level. So, even though you're a support character, I don't see the reason not to have this spell, because once you activate your Twilight Sanctuary, and you're thinking, what other thing that I can do with my action on round number 2, round number 3 maybe, yes, you can activate maybe some support spell, maybe Bless, maybe Fairy Fire, maybe something else, but usually what I found myself, even at level 2, even in the second round doing is activating Spirit Guardians, because there was like a lot of situations where there was a lot of enemies, and when there's a lot of enemies you can bet that they don't have a lot of hit points, and that, you know, controlling their movement via, you know, difficult terrain, and all of that is good, right? So even though it's diminishing returns the later you cast it, it's best cast at in the first round of combat. However, again, your Twilight Sanctuary is the best thing for this particular character to do it in the first round of combat. So, you know, like, you have to pick and choose. I think this is best cast in the second round, and this is best used in the first round. But you know, that's just me, and I think a lot of you will agree. And I'm not saying that necessarily casting Spirit Guardians in the first round is gonna be bad. It's just not gonna be as optimal, in my opinion, as doing Twilight Sanctuary round number 1, Spirit Guardians round number 2. Anyway, Revivify. You will probably never need this spell. I never needed this spell, but just in case you're a level 5 and 6 and something cleric, and somebody does die, I just find it very hard to believe. Yeah, sure, why not, right? Like, better have it prepared and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So that's pretty much it. So that's that, right? So yeah, I also prepared Spirit Shroud for some reason. I don't know why. Let's just unprepare. Sure, I mean, it's a damage spell, right? I mean, but you're not really using your weapons and attacks, right? Any attack. Yeah, maybe it can be a spell attack. It can, you can maybe use it with, yeah, no, like, I was like, yeah, let's unprepare this spell. Let's give it back. Let's put some other spell in. Like, yeah, let's do that. So, Banishment, again, I'm not gonna talk about these two because already covered. Banishment is the best control spell for clerics at level 7, and for a long time after that as well, because they scale very well with spell slots. The higher the spell slot, the more targets of the spell, and while, yeah, sure, maybe the spell fails, once it goes off, it's like it significantly affects the flow of combat and the amount of damage and the danger coming your way. So yeah, it's one of the best spells for level 7 clerics and above to use, period, right? Aura of Purity. Now, this is an additional cleric spell. It's a paladin spell, but it's been added to the list of spells by the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Sorry, my nose is congested a bit again, so give me a second. I'm sorry for ruining your ears, but you know how it is. So purifying energy, blah blah blah, all of that. Look how many conditions this affects. Now, okay, sure, you might be thinking, but I already deal with charmed and frightened conditions because the Twilight Sanctuary Channel Divinity automatically ends them at the end of the creature's turns who have been affected by these two conditions. However, even then, paralyzed, poisoned, and stunned, these three conditions are absolutely debilitating, like super debilitating for any party member of yours to deal with, right? So giving advantage on saving throws against those effects at level 7, again, this is a level 7 character we are talking about. For Paladin, you would need to be a level 13 Paladin. For Cleric, you're a level 7, so that's like a significant power increase. This is probably the best support spell, even though it's situational, even though there might not even be that many situations for you to need this spell. Once you need it, similar to the lesser restoration argument that I was using earlier on, again, paralyzed and poison, here, same thing, poison, stunned, and paralyzed just gives advantage, right? Okay, sure, maybe lesser restoration automatically ends paralyzed and poison, it's not just a chance, but why not both, right? Why not activate this, and then if somebody gets paralyzed or poisoned, you know, give them lesser restoration. So yeah, it's just more tools in your toolbox. Now, Death Ward. Okay, so this is a thematic spell. You don't need it. You can unprepare it. It's a spell. Okay, for some reason I chose the spell of them. It doesn't matter. You get it both from your race expanded spells and your cleric list of spells. You don't need it, but it's a thematic spell. Sometimes I like to have a little bit of a suboptimal choice here and there, just to keep it up with the theme a little bit, you know. So that's just my opinion. I had it prepared, I never needed it, and definitely, like, for example, freedom of movement would be a better thing to have than the Death Ward. I don't know why I didn't even, yeah, so let me just add this. I'm gonna upload it later to my Patreon. Very good, right? Oh man, my keyboard, yeah. So yeah, that's that about that. So yeah, I mean, whatever you choose, it's not really gonna go super wrong in either way. But that's just my own opinion, right? Now, last but not least, I like the big spectral stomper, the Guardian of Faith. It's not the best damaging spell. It's not even the. It's just good, right? It's solid, and occasionally it might even affect the flow of combat because it triggers off of the movement of the hostile creatures. So if the hostile creature moves to a space, to any space within 10 feet of the Guardian, if it just moves around the Guardian hits it, right? So in a way, especially if you have a DM who likes to meta game, you're kind of like affecting the flow of combat by incentivizing the creature not to move. Maybe move up to your ally, or maybe move away. You know what I mean, right? So it can occasionally be good for that, but obviously for the damage as well. I mean, most enemies move in the combat, so yeah, that's just that. So level 5 spells, Big Beast Hand, that's an obvious choice. It's so good, it's so flexible. Not really for the damage, but more for these like battlefield control effects. Grappling, you know, all of that, like interposing, preventing the enemy from coming to your ally or maybe you. I like this spell a lot. It's very flexible, very useful, very. It can be used in a lot of combat situations effectively. So why would you not take it from your race? This is one of those spells that you take from your race. Other level 5 spells, obviously not gonna cover these two because already covered. Great Arresto, it's like it deals with so many other debilitating effects, almost a must-have, even though it costs a little bit, consumes some diamond dust. It's well worth it in my opinion. Again, Raise Dead, you kind of don't need it, but it's a prudent thing to have prepared, right? So that's just, it's similar argument to Revivify. And then you can have Summon Celestial, which, can we even prepare that spell? Yeah, we can. Let's just put Summon Celestial in there, right? Because it's a fun new spell from Tasha, and if you've never played a level 9 cleric before, especially now with all of these new spells, why not use the chance to try it out? You know, like test it out in game, see how it works, right? Because this is a spell from Tasha. Tasha's Color of Everything. And I think it's very good. It's like, it's not super powerful, it's not mediocre, it's just solid. And having another body on the battlefield is good, especially because it can heal, and it can give temporary hit points, I believe. Yeah, so you're it kind of does what you do, but to a lesser extent. So it's even thematic, even though it's a generic cleric spell. Because you give temporary hit points, you make this spirit, which also gives temporary hit points, just in case there's one of your allies somewhere far away outside of your Twilight Sanctuary aura, and you give that ally your temporary hit points as well. And I believe this, yeah, you can do this every turn, yeah, so it's very good. And also the Celestial makes a number equal to half the spell's level. It's a level 5 spell, so maybe if you cast it with the level 6 spell slot later on, it can have 3 attacks, it can give 3 allies 1d10 temper, you know, it can deal some damage. It's not even, it's a decent amount of damage, decent amount of hit points. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's just an overall good spell. I would love to be able to use this spell. I just never got the chance because it wasn't allowed in the online server that I played this character at, even though, yeah, we just never agreed upon using this spell, and well, we stopped playing after a while. So yeah, anyway, level 6 spells heal. I don't think I need to talk too much about this spell. I recommended this spell fervently on a couple other characters that I promoted on this channel. So again, this is another character that kind of is into healing, you know, temporary hit points, that kind of thing. Giving allies as many hit points as possible. So obviously this is a solid choice. Now, word of recall, just in case all of this healing, all of those temporary hit points, all of the Twilight Sanctuaries don't work, word of recall is like your panic button. You know, press it, run away, everybody lives, You did your job, you kept everybody alive. Yes, maybe you lost the combat, maybe you didn't defeat the enemy, but at least you lived to fight another day, right? For some reason, I didn't put these other spells in there, probably because I prepared these other ones. But yeah, I mean, look, you can only prepare up to 25 spells, so you have to pick and choose, right? Maybe you don't prepare Raise Dead. Maybe you pick Sunbeam and Hero's Feast, right? You have to pick and choose. So, in this particular case, I left some out of these out. In favor of these higher level spells like Plane Shift, which is gonna... Look, once you take this, you are in control of what's happening in the campaign, which is the reason why most DMs, me including, are not confident, I'm gonna even admit, maybe competent enough to deal with this spell. But yeah, this is kind of like a campaign storyline, a main storyline of the campaign ruining spell. Because once you start jumping in other planes of existence, well, what's the point of having some big bad boss in the material plane when you can, I don't know, go kill the archdevils in the hells, or so, I don't know, like do something like that. I mean, you know, you're now in control of what's happening by a long shot. Conjure Celestial, similar to Summon Celestial. You have less choices, but Quaddles are CR4, CR5 creatures. They are powerhouses. So, you know, this spell, even though it's a high level, it's very, very good. Temple of the Gods, I don't know why I don't have it in here, but either way, it's like, it's a significantly upgraded Leomundstein hat-ish. Like, I'm kind of like just paraphrasing here. Leomundstein hat is like a 2-star motel compared to a Hilton hotel that Temple of the Gods is, right? And all the utility and comfort and luxury and spaciousness and all of that, obviously. So yeah, high level spells, I mean, that's what it is. Anti-magic field, super powerful and complicates things a lot. It's gonna cause so many weird, like, interactions between magic items, spells, lasting effects, it's a mess. But it's a mess for a reason, because this is one of the most powerful level 8 spells in the game, even though it stops magic from functioning, right? You often do want that, because at such high levels, 15, 17, whatever, you are dealing with a lot of enemies that have spells and other magic effects. So yeah, it's very, very solid. Earthquake, I mean, come on. If something survives a mountain falling down on top of its head, you probably need to cast that Word of Recall after you cast Earthquake, right? So this is situationally ridiculously powerful spell. Game breaking, almost, just by default, right? And then finally at level, obviously, Holy Aura, really, really good. This is basically Circle of Power and protection from evil and good on steroids, because it's a 30-foot radius aura. Obviously, it's nuts. It's a high level spell, so it's supposed to be nuts, but it is just insane, right? I was never able to use it, but I've seen a couple clerics use it, and well, let me just say, it's super powerful. Super powerful. So yeah, level 9 spells, Gate, Mass Heal. Again, once you get to these high levels, you have to pick and choose which spells to prepare. Maybe you can even like ditch Lesser Restoration and prepare, let's say, Temple of the Gods or Conjure Celestial. You know, you have to make some sacrifices, but you know, it depends on the situations that you're dealing with, right? So let's just put Temple of the Gods here, yeah, because it would kind of make sense, right? And yeah, with that done, progression-wise, already talked about it in the shorter video, in the brief overview of the Candlekeeper, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. You can already see it. If you're still listening, please, I think I've earned a like and share and maybe a comment. And if you're not subscribed already, please do so, hit the bell. These files are on my Patreon. It's a Patreon perk for all of my Patreon supporters. If you want it, go to my Patreon page and pledge over there. It's in the description. It's in the, channel description, video description, all of that. With everything said and done, MinMax Munchkin out, and talk to you soon.